She wanted a fresh start only to discover her billionaire CEO boss was her one-night stand. I looked for you. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with 3 months of unanswered questions. Damien Hale stood frozen in his executive conference room, staring at the woman he'd searched for in every coffee shop, every restaurant, every corner of Lumina City. Elara Quinn, the brilliant stranger who'd vanished from his hotel room, now stood before him clutching a research portfolio, her eyes wide with shock and something that looked painfully like betrayal. After that night, he'd admitted quietly, his billionaire composure cracking like thin ice. I went back to the bar 3 times. Asked the staff. But I only knew your first name. Elara's laugh was sharp enough to draw blood. Left before you could. She turned, and for the first time let him see the hurt beneath her professional mask. I woke up alone, Damien. You left first. So forgive me if I don't believe the pretty story about searching. His face drained of color. I didn't leave. I went to get coffee. When I came back, the hotel said you'd checked out. I thought you'd regretted it. Regretted me. The silence that followed could have shattered glass. Because what do you do when you discover that your one-night stand, the person you've spent 3 months trying to forget, is now your boss? What happens when a misunderstanding threatens to destroy something that never got the chance to begin? Stay with me, because this story is about to get very complicated. And if you love stories about second chances, redemption, and love that refuses to stay buried, hit that subscribe button right now. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. 3 months earlier, the champagne had tasted like stardust. Elara Quinn remembered because she'd never drunk anything so expensive before, or since. The rooftop bar overlooked Lumina City like a kingdom of light, skyscrapers piercing the night sky with their geometric brilliance. But she hadn't been looking at the view. She'd been looking at him. The stranger with green eyes that seemed to see straight through her carefully constructed walls. The man who'd somehow made discussing carbon fiber composites sound like poetry. When he'd quoted Neruda between explanations of market disruption, Elara had felt something shift inside her chest. Something dangerous and wonderful. I feel invisible sometimes, she'd confessed, the champagne loosening words she normally kept locked away. In my field, being a woman means you're either decoration or a threat. Never just brilliant. Never just enough. The stranger had leaned forward, and the intensity in his gaze had stolen her breath. I see you, he'd said simply. And what I see is extraordinary. Then he'd shared his own truth. I haven't slept peacefully in years. Success is the loneliest prison I've ever built. Everything I touch turns to gold, except the things that actually matter. Like peace. Like connection. Like this. His hand had found hers across the small table, and electricity had raced up her arm. They'd talked for 3 hours. About broken things and beautiful things. About ambition that hollowed you out and dreams that kept you whole. About being seen versus being known. When he'd kissed her, tasting of whiskey and something achingly tender, Elara had whispered yes to everything. Yes to the hotel. Yes to the night. Yes to feeling worthy for the first time in her 29 years. But morning had come with empty sheets and colder truths. No note. No name beyond the first names they'd exchanged like precious secrets. Just the fading scent of expensive cologne and the hollow ache of being left behind. Again. Always. Elara had stared at her reflection in the hotel bathroom, mascara smudged beneath eyes that had cried themselves dry. Her lipstick from the night before was smeared across her collarbone like evidence of her own foolishness. She'd whispered a promise to her reflection. I don't fall twice for the same mistake. Now, 3 months later, Elara kept that promise close as she rode the elevator to the 42nd floor of Halecore Industries. Her portfolio felt heavy in her arms. 5 years of research. 3 patents pending. A doctorate earned through night classes while working 2 jobs. and the desperate hope that this position would finally prove she belonged somewhere. The Sustainable Innovation Division wasn't just a dream role. It was validation. It was her chance to show the world that she was more than invisible. The elevator dinged softly, floor numbers climbing like her anxiety. 38. 39. 40. Her reflection stared back at her from the polished steel doors. Navy suit perfectly pressed. Hair pulled back in a professional bun. Minimal makeup. Nothing like the woman in the emerald dress who'd surrendered to magic on a rooftop. This version of herself was armored. Protected. Safe. 42. The doors opened to floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist design that screamed money and power. Everything was white and chrome and sharp angles. A receptionist with a tablet and a smile that didn't reach her eyes looked up. Dr. Quinn. Welcome to HaleCorp. Mr. Hale will see you in the executive conference room. Please follow me. Ilara's heart performed an irregular rhythm. Hale. The name meant nothing to her. She deliberately avoided researching the CEO, wanting her work to speak first, not his reputation. She'd learned the hard way that knowing too much about powerful men made you either intimidated or cynical. Better to let competence do the talking. The receptionist led her down a hallway lined with awards and patents. HaleCorp Industries had revolutionized sustainable technology in manufacturing. Their innovations had reduced industrial carbon emissions by 30% globally. Impressive didn't begin to cover it. They stopped at massive double doors. Frosted glass etched with the company logo. Here we are. Good luck, Dr. Quinn. The receptionist's smile seemed genuine this time, almost sympathetic, as though she knew something Ilara didn't. The doors opened. Time fractured. He stood by the windows, silhouetted against Lumina City's skyline, turning at the sound of her entrance. Those same green eyes. That same carved jawline. The same hands that had traced her spine with reverent precision while whispering that she was extraordinary. Recognition hit them simultaneously. A car crash of memory and present colliding with devastating force. You. Ilara breathed the word, barely audible over the thundering of her own heartbeat. Damien Hale. Because of course that was his full name. Of course he was the billionaire CEO she'd be reporting to. Of course the universe had this particular cruelty waiting for her. He went perfectly still. His expression cycled through shock, confusion, and something that looked painfully like regret. The expensive suit couldn't hide the way his shoulders tensed. The way his hands flexed at his sides as though he wanted to reach for her but didn't dare. Miss Quinn. His voice was steady, professional, completely at odds with the chaos in his eyes. I didn't know. Clearly. Ilara's voice came out sharper than intended. Years of being underestimated, dismissed, and abandoned crystallized into armor. She forced her spine straight, her chin up. Every inch the competent professional who definitely hadn't fallen apart in this man's arms 3 months ago. Shall we discuss the position, Mr. Hale? Or would you prefer to pretend this meeting isn't happening at all? Something flickered across his face. Hurt, maybe, or admiration. He gestured to the conference table. Please, sit. Make yourself comfortable. Comfortable. The word was almost funny. Ilara sat in the leather chair farthest from him, spreading her research materials across the polished surface like defensive fortifications. Bio-based polymers. Sustainable composites. Carbon-neutral manufacturing processes. Her life's work laid bare between them. Damien took the seat across from her, maintaining professional distance. But his eyes. His eyes betrayed everything. They held apologies and questions and a hunger that made her skin flush despite her best efforts. Your credentials are impressive, he began, voice carefully neutral. MIT for your doctorate. Published in 3 major journals. The Henderson Prize for Innovation. His gaze dropped to her research. Tell me about your polymer work. So they were doing this. Pretending. Fine. Elara could pretend with the best of them. She launched into her presentation, explaining molecular structures and biodegradable compounds with clinical precision. Her voice didn't waver. Her hands didn't shake. She was Dr. Elara Quinn, researcher and innovator, not the woman who traced poetry into this man's skin at 3 in the morning. But as she talked, something shifted. Damien asked questions that revealed he'd actually read her work. Not just skimmed it. Read it. Understood it. Appreciated its implications for global manufacturing. How did you solve the durability issue? He asked, leaning forward. Most bio-based materials break down too quickly for industrial applications. I cross-linked the polymer chains with a titanium oxide catalyst, Elara explained, pulling up molecular diagrams on her tablet. It extends the functional lifespan by 400% while maintaining complete biodegradability. The patent is pending. His eyes lit up. That's brilliant. This could revolutionize packaging, construction, even automotive components. Exactly. She felt herself warming to the subject despite everything. If we can scale production and reduce costs, we're looking at a fundamental shift in how industries approach sustainability. The next 30 minutes unfolded like performance art. Technical discussion interspersed with moments where their eyes met and held. Brief, electric, loaded with everything unsaid. When she finished, silence stretched taut between them. Your research is extraordinary, Damien said quietly. Exactly what this division needs. Someone who thinks beyond quarterly profits to generational impact. Then I have the position. Yes. He paused, and something vulnerable crossed his features. But Elara. Dr. Quinn. We need to address what happened. We need to talk about that night. No. She stood abruptly, gathering her materials with shaking hands. We don't. That night was a mistake. This is business. Let's keep it that way. The words stopped her at the door, freezing her mid-step like she'd hit an invisible wall. She turned slowly, every instinct screaming at her to run. But something in his voice, raw and desperate, held her in place. After that night, Damien continued, standing now, his professional mask crumbling. I went back to the bar 3 times. Asked the bartender, the hostess, anyone who might have seen you. But I only knew your first name, and you'd already gone. Left before you could. Elara interrupted, and for the first time let him see the hurt beneath her professional facade. I woke up alone, Damien. In a hotel room. With a man whose last name I didn't know. You left first. So forgive me if I don't believe the pretty story about searching for me. His face drained of color. The confident billionaire CEO vanished, replaced by someone who looked genuinely stricken. I didn't leave you, he said, each word careful and deliberate. I went downstairs to get coffee. Real coffee, not the hotel room garbage. I was going to bring it back with pastries from the bakery across the street. I was gone maybe 40 minutes. He ran a hand through his hair, destroying its careful styling. When I came back, you checked out. The hotel staff said you'd left in a hurry. Requested a cab. I thought you'd regretted it. Regretted me. The confession hung between them, rewriting history. Elara felt her carefully constructed walls tremble. You went for coffee. That's why there was no note. I didn't think I needed one, Damien admitted. I thought I'd be back before you woke up. I wanted to surprise you with breakfast in bed and maybe convince you to tell me your last name. To give us a chance beyond one perfect night. Her throat tightened. I woke up alone in a hotel room with a man whose last name I didn't know. What was I supposed to think? That I was falling for you. The rawness in his voice made her eyes sting. That I'd found someone who saw past the billion-dollar valuation to the insomniac afraid of his own emptiness. That for 3 hours on a rooftop, I felt more like myself than I have in a decade. Stop. Elara held up a hand, emotions threatening to overwhelm her carefully maintained logic. I can't do this. Not here. Not now. I just got this job. My career, my credibility, everything I've worked for is in this building. We can't, this can't. Damien nodded slowly, but his eyes held hers with desperate intensity. Then let me take you to dinner. Let me explain properly. Away from this building and these titles. Just two people who deserve a real conversation. You're my boss. I'm aware of the complication. This could destroy my credibility before I even start. People will say I slept my way into this position. I know. He stepped closer, not touching but close enough that she could smell that same cologne. Feel the heat of him. See the fine lines around his eyes that spoke of those sleepless nights he'd confessed to. But I've spent 3 months trying to forget you, Elara. It hasn't worked. And seeing you walk through that door, watching you present work that could change the world. His voice cracked slightly. I can't let you disappear again. Not without trying. Elara's professional instincts screamed warnings. Her research, her reputation, everything she'd worked for could crumble if this went wrong. But beneath the logic, her traitorous heart remembered his laugh. His vulnerability. The way he'd made her feel worthy of being seen. One dinner, she heard herself say. To clear the air. Nothing more. The smile that broke across his face was sunlight after storm. Nothing more, he agreed, but his eyes promised everything. As Elara left Halecore's gleaming headquarters, she didn't know whether she'd just made the best decision of her life or signed up for beautiful disaster. Either way, she was no longer invisible. And Damien Hale, brilliant, broken, determined, was no longer a stranger. The city stretched before her, full of second chances and dangerous possibilities. And for the first time in 3 months, Elara Quinn felt something more powerful than regret. She felt alive. 1 week later, the coffee appeared. Elara arrived at her new office, a modest but well-lit space in the Sustainable Innovation Division, to find a cup waiting on her desk. No name on it. No note. But it was her exact order. Oat milk latte, 2 pumps of vanilla, light foam. She stared at it like it might explode. The barista downstairs didn't know her order yet. She'd only been here 3 days. But someone knew. Someone remembered. That evening, working late to review supply chain logistics, she found Damien in the hallway outside her office. He looked rumpled, tie loosened, jacket slung over one shoulder. Burning the midnight oil? He asked, leaning against the doorframe with studied casualness. Could ask you the same thing, Elara replied, trying to ignore how good he looked with his defenses down. Thought billionaire CEOs had people to work late for them. Damien smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. Can't delegate everything. Besides, some things require personal attention. The air between them hummed with unspoken meaning. Was the coffee from you? Elara asked before she could stop herself. He didn't deny it. I remember what you ordered that night. At the rooftop bar. You said most people get your coffee wrong, that it's the small details that matter. I thought, maybe you'd appreciate someone getting it right. It's just coffee, Damien. Is it? He pushed off the doorframe, moving into her office uninvited but not unwelcome. Or is it me trying to show you that I pay attention? That I remember? That night wasn't just a mistake I'm trying to forget. Elara stood, putting her desk between them like a barricade. We agreed to keep this professional. We did. His eyes held hers. But we also agreed to dinner. Saturday. 7 o'clock. Unless you've changed your mind. She should say yes. Should back out. Should protect herself from the inevitable heartbreak that came from wanting someone like Damien Hale. But instead, she heard herself say, where? There's a small Italian place in the arts district. No paparazzi, no business crowd. Just good food and privacy. He smiled, genuine this time. I'll text you the address. You don't have my number. Not yet. His grin turned playful. But you filled out employee paperwork, Dr. Quinn. I'm resourceful. That's an abuse of power, Mr. Hale. Probably, he agreed cheerfully. Fire me if you object. Before she could respond, her computer dinged with an email notification. Both of them glanced at the screen. The sender made Alara's blood run cold. Human Resources. Subject line. Formal complaint investigation. Her hands trembled as she opened it. To Dr. Alara Quinn, this email serves as notification that Human Resources has received an anonymous complaint regarding potential favoritism and inappropriate workplace relationships within the Sustainable Innovation Division. An investigation will commence immediately. You are required to meet with HR Director Patricia Chen tomorrow at 9 a.m. Please bring any relevant documentation regarding your hiring process and current work assignments. Failure to comply may result in disciplinary action up to and including termination. The words blurred as panic seized Alara's chest. Someone had reported them. Someone was watching. Her career, her reputation, everything she'd fought for was about to be destroyed before it even began. Damien read over her shoulder, his expression darkening. This is Celine's work, he muttered. It has to be. Who's Celine? Alara demanded, fear sharpening her voice into something brittle. Celine Cade. Chief Strategy Officer. She's been angling for my position for years. If she can prove I'm compromising company integrity with inappropriate relationships, the board might force me out. He met Alara's stricken gaze. This isn't about you. It's about getting to me. But it is about me, Alara shot back. My credibility, my career. People will think I slept my way into this job, and you know what? They're not entirely wrong, are they? We did sleep together. Before you worked here, Damien argued. Before either of us knew. That doesn't matter. Perception is reality in corporate America. She sank into her chair, head in her hands. I should resign. Before this gets worse. Before it destroys both of us. No. Damien's voice was steel. You're not going anywhere. We'll fight this. We'll tell the truth. That's not how this works, Alara said bitterly. The truth doesn't matter when someone powerful wants you gone. And I'm not powerful. I'm nobody. You're brilliant, Damien countered fiercely. Your research could save this company millions while revolutionizing sustainable manufacturing. You earned this position on merit, and I'll be damned if Celine's political games take that away from you. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling Patricia now. We'll get ahead of this. Don't. Alara's voice stopped him. If you interfere, it proves their point. That you're giving me special treatment. That I can't stand on my own. His jaw worked with frustration. So what do you want to do? I go to the meeting tomorrow, she said, forcing strength into her voice she didn't feel. I present my credentials, my research, my hiring timeline. I prove that you chose me for my work, not because of one night 3 months ago. And us? Damien asked quietly. The dinner? The coffee? Whatever this is becoming. There is no us, Alara whispered, each word cutting her as much as him. There can't be. Not if I want to survive this. And before you go, I need you to do me a favor. If this story is resonating with you, if you believe in second chances and fighting for what matters, please subscribe to this channel. Your support helps us grow and bring you more stories like this one. Stories about courage, redemption, and love that refuses to stay buried. Hit that subscribe button now, because what happens next is going to challenge everything Elara and Damien believe about sacrifice, integrity, and what they're willing to risk for each other. The HR meeting was exactly as brutal as Elara had feared. Patricia Chen, a woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and no-nonsense glasses, sat across from her in a sterile conference room. A lawyer flanked Patricia's left side, recording everything. Dar. Quinn, Patricia began, her tone professionally neutral. Let's start with how you became aware of the position at Halecore Industries. I saw it posted on the National Science Foundation job board, Elara replied, keeping her voice steady. The Sustainable Innovation Division was looking for someone with expertise in bio-based materials. It matched my qualifications perfectly. And you applied through normal channels? Yes. Online portal. Submitted my CV, cover letter, research portfolio, and 3 professional references. I received an interview request 2 weeks later. Patricia made notes on her tablet. And who conducted your interview? The initial screening was with Dr. Marcus Webb, head of Sustainable Innovation. The second round was with Mr. Hale and 2 board members, Dr. Sarah Chen and Thomas Rodriguez. Elara met Patricia's gaze directly. All interviews focused exclusively on my research and qualifications. Yet you'd met Mr. Hale before, hadn't you? The question landed like a bomb. Elara's throat went dry. Who told you that? Please answer the question, Dr. Quinn. Yes, Elara admitted. 3 months before my interview. We met briefly at a professional networking event. How briefly? One evening. We discussed industry trends and materials science. Then we went our separate ways. I didn't know his last name or position until I walked into the interview. Patricia's expression remained unreadable. And you didn't think to disclose this potential conflict of interest? There was no conflict, Elara insisted. We were strangers who had one conversation. I didn't know he was the CEO of the company I was applying to. He didn't know I was a candidate. It was pure coincidence. The lawyer leaned forward. Ms. Quinn, we have reports that suggest your relationship with Mr. Hale extends beyond professional networking. Elara's heart hammered. From who? That information is confidential. But I'll ask directly. Have you and Mr. Hale engaged in a romantic or physical relationship at any point before or after your hiring? The room felt airless. Elara could lie. Should lie. But the truth had a way of surfacing, and lies would only make things worse. Before, she said clearly. 3 months before I even knew this position existed. We met once. One evening. There was a personal connection. But I left before learning his last name, and we had no contact afterward until the interview. So you did sleep with the man who ultimately hired you, the lawyer pressed. Before I knew who he was, Elara shot back, anger replacing fear. Before I knew I'd ever see him again. Before this job even existed in my world. I earned this position based on 5 years of research, 3 patents, and a doctorate from MIT. Not because of one night with a stranger who happened to become my boss. Patricia held up a hand, silencing the lawyer. Dr. Quinn, I appreciate your candor. However, you must understand how this appears. A CEO hiring someone he'd been intimate with, regardless of timing, raises serious questions about judgment and favoritism. I understand, Elara said quietly. Which is why I'm prepared to resign, effective immediately. The words tasted like ash. Patricia's eyes widened slightly. That's a significant decision. Are you certain? My credibility is compromised, Elara replied, fighting to keep her voice from breaking. Whether I earned this position or not, people will always question it now. I won't be the reason Halecore's reputation suffers. And I won't be the weakness someone uses to destroy Mr. Hale's career. Before Patricia could respond, the conference room door burst open. Damien strode in, followed by two board members Alara recognized from her interview. Mr. Hale, Patricia stood abruptly. This is a closed investigation. You can't be here. I'm here as CEO, and these board members are here as witnesses, Damien replied crisply. Because this investigation is based on false premises and manipulated information. He placed a tablet on the table, screen illuminated with email threads and digital footprints. Over the past week, our cybersecurity team has been tracking unusual activity in our HR systems. Someone has been accessing confidential employee files without authorization. Someone has been feeding selective information to create the appearance of impropriety where none exists. Patricia's face paled. What are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting, Damien said coldly. I'm stating. Chief Strategy Officer Celine Cade has been systematically sabotaging Dr. Quinn's work and manufacturing evidence of favoritism as part of a larger campaign to undermine my position. He swiped through screens. Here are logs showing Celine accessed Dr. Quinn's hiring records, interview notes, and personal employee file. None of which she had clearance for. Here are emails she sent to the anonymous complaint portal, carefully worded to avoid direct accusation while implying misconduct. He looked at Patricia directly. And here are records showing she's been tampering with Dr. Quinn's research data, rerouting her internal communications, and blocking her funding requests. All to create a paper trail suggesting incompetence that would justify termination. The room fell silent. Alara stared at the evidence, her mind reeling. Someone had been actively trying to destroy her. One of the board members, Dr. Sarah Chen, spoke up. We verified all of this information independently. Ms. Cade's actions constitute serious violations of company policy, professional ethics, and potentially criminal law. She's been placed on immediate suspension pending further investigation. But, Alara managed, still trying to process. Why? Why target me specifically? You're not the target, Thomas Rodriguez, the other board member, explained gently. Mr. Hale is. Ms. Cade has wanted his position for years. By creating a scandal around his hiring practices and personal conduct, she hoped to force board intervention. Your connection to him made you the perfect weapon. Damien's eyes found Alara's across the table. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I never meant for you to become collateral damage in corporate politics. This isn't your fault, Alara replied, still reeling. You didn't do anything wrong. Neither did you, Damien countered. You earned this position. Your work is exceptional. But I put you at risk by not being more careful, by not anticipating how our past connection might be weaponized. Patricia cleared her throat. Given these developments, I'm recommending immediate dismissal of the complaint against Dr. Quinn. Her hiring was legitimate, her qualifications unquestionable, and any appearance of impropriety was manufactured by a third party with malicious intent. She looked at Alara with something approaching respect. I apologize, Dr. Quinn, for what you've endured. You deserved better. Thank you, Alara managed, though her hands still shook. But even if the complaint is dismissed, the perception remains. People will still talk. Still question whether I belong here. That's why I'm proposing structural changes, Damien interjected. Effective immediately, the Sustainable Innovation Division will operate with increased autonomy. Dr. Quinn will report to Dr. Webb, not directly to me. We'll implement ethical walls to separate any personal relationship from professional oversight. All project approvals, funding decisions, and performance reviews will go through a committee, not a single executive. He met each person's eyes in turn. I will not allow my personal life to compromise Dr. Quinn's career or Halecore's integrity. We do this right, or we don't do it at all. Dr. Chen nodded approvingly. That's acceptable. The board will formalize these protocols at tomorrow's meeting. Mr. Rodriguez agreed. And Ms. Cade? Terminated, Damien said flatly. Effective immediately. I'll handle that conversation personally. The meeting adjourned with handshakes and reassurances. But as everyone filed out, Elara remained seated, processing everything that had just happened. Damien lingered in the doorway. You okay? He asked softly. I almost resigned, she whispered. I was ready to walk away from everything I'd worked for because I thought I was the problem. You're not the problem, Damien said fiercely. You're the solution. To sustainable manufacturing, to ethical innovation, to everything this company should stand for. He paused. And to me, if you'll still have me after all this. Elara looked up at him. This man who'd risked his reputation, restructured his company, and fought for her when she'd been ready to surrender. The dinner, she said quietly. Saturday at 7. Is the offer still open? Damien's smile could have lit the entire city. Always. Then it's a date, Elara replied. A real one this time. With last names and full disclosure and no running away in the morning. He laughed, the sound warm and genuine. Deal. No running. No secrets. Just two people figuring out if what they started on a rooftop 3 months ago can survive in the real world. I think it can, Elara admitted. I think we can. Me too, Damien said. Me too. Saturday arrived with unexpected sunshine. Elara stood in front of her mirror, trying on and discarding outfits with increasing desperation. Too formal. Too casual. Too trying too hard. Finally, she settled on a simple black dress, elegant but understated, paired with the silver earrings her mother had given her for graduation. She arrived at the restaurant 5 minutes early, nerves jangling. The Italian place was exactly as Damien had described. Small, intimate, tucked away in the arts district where tourists rarely ventured. Exposed brick walls, soft lighting, the scent of garlic and fresh basil in the air. Damien was already there, seated at a corner table. He stood when he saw her, and the smile that crossed his face made her breath catch. You're beautiful, he said simply. You're not so bad yourself, Elara replied, settling into her chair. They ordered wine. Appetizers. Made small talk about work and weather and neutral topics. But beneath the surface, anticipation hummed. Finally, Damien set down his glass. I need to tell you something. About that morning. When I went for coffee. Elara's chest tightened. Okay. I was terrified, he admitted. Waking up next to you, feeling what I felt, it scared me more than any business deal or board presentation ever has. Because you were real. What we shared was real. And I'd spent so long building walls that I didn't know how to let someone in. So I went for coffee, trying to figure out what to say. How to ask you to give us a chance without sounding desperate or presumptuous or like every other guy who probably disappoints you. She reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. You didn't disappoint me. You terrified me too. That night, I felt seen in a way I never had before. And when I woke up alone, all I could think was that I'd been stupid to believe it was real. It was real, Damien insisted, threading his fingers through hers. Is real. Every moment since you walked back into my life has proven that. Even when it's complicated and messy and potentially career-ending. Elara asked wryly. Especially then, he replied. Because you didn't run. You stood your ground, defended your work, refused to let anyone diminish you. Do you know how rare that is? How extraordinary. I was ready to resign, she reminded him. Because you were trying to protect me, Damien countered. Not because you doubted yourself. There's a difference. He squeezed her hand gently. You're the bravest person I know, Elara Quinn. And I'm terrified of losing you again. You won't, she whispered. Not unless you order bad coffee. He laughed, the tension breaking like storm clouds parting. Then I'll make sure to always get your order right. Oat milk latte, 2 pumps vanilla, light foam. See? I pay attention. They talked through dinner. Through dessert. Through a second bottle of wine. About childhoods and dreams and failures. About the loneliness of success and the courage required for vulnerability. About what they wanted from life and from each other. As the restaurant began to close, Damien walked her to her car. The night air was cool, the city quiet around them. Thank you, Elara said. For fighting for me. For this. For giving us a real chance. Thank you for letting me, Damien replied. For not giving up on possibility. He kissed her then. Soft and slow and full of promise. Not stolen or desperate or shadowed by uncertainty. Just honest and true and theirs. When they finally pulled apart, Elara smiled. So what happens now? Now, Damien said, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, we take it one day at a time. No grand gestures, no dramatic declarations. Just 2 people choosing each other, consistently and honestly. I can do that, Elara agreed. Good, he murmured against her lips. Because I'm planning to keep you, Dr. Quinn. For a very long time. 6 months later, the Halecore annual shareholder meeting opened with a presentation on the Sustainable Innovation Division's groundbreaking achievements. Elara stood at the podium, addressing hundreds of investors, industry leaders, and press. Her research had reduced manufacturing costs by 40% while cutting carbon emissions in half. 3 Fortune 500 companies had licensed her patents. And her team had grown from 5 researchers to 20. But the real victory was standing at the back of the room. Damien, watching her with undisguised pride and something deeper. Something that looked a lot like love. After the presentation, as applause thundered through the conference hall, Elara caught his eye. He mouthed 2 words. Told you. She grinned. Show off, she mouthed back. That evening, they returned to the rooftop bar where it had all begun. The same view, the same champagne, but everything different. We should come here every year, Damien suggested, arm around her shoulders. Mark the anniversary of the night that changed everything. Which anniversary? Elara teased. The night we met. The night we reunited. The night you restructured your entire company for me. All of them, he replied easily. Every single one. She leaned into him, contentment settling deep in her bones. You know what I've learned? What's that? Running away doesn't protect you from pain, Elara said softly. It just guarantees you'll miss the good parts. And staying? Damien asked. What does that guarantee? Nothing, she admitted. Except the chance to find out what we're capable of when we stop being afraid. He turned to face her fully, green eyes serious. I love you, Elara Quinn. I've loved you since you quoted thermodynamics like poetry on this rooftop. I loved you when you walked into my conference room with fire in your eyes. I love you now, watching you change the world one polymer at a time. She felt tears prick her eyes. I love you too, Damien Hale. Even when you abuse your CEO powers to find my phone number. Especially then, he corrected with a grin. Someone has to keep you supplied with properly made coffee. It's a vital public service. She laughed, kissing him as the city lights sparkled below them. A kingdom of possibilities stretched in every direction, but the only place she wanted to be was right here. With him. Building something real from the wreckage of misunderstanding and the courage of second chances. Because some mistakes weren't mistakes at all. Some nights that felt too perfect to be real became the foundation for everything that mattered. And some people were worth fighting for, worth restructuring companies for, worth believing in even when fear screamed to run. Ilara had wanted a fresh start. What she'd found was something infinitely better. A man who saw her. A love that refused to stay buried. And the courage to stop being invisible and claim the life she deserved. Not in spite of what had happened, but because of it. Every choice, every risk, every terrifying moment of vulnerability had led here. To this rooftop. This man. This love. And she wouldn't change a single thing. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in second chances and fighting for what matters, I need you to do something for me right now. Subscribe to this channel. Your support helps us grow and bring you more stories about courage, love, and never giving up on possibility. Hit that subscribe button, leave a comment about your own second chance story, and share this with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to rewrite your ending. Because sometimes the best stories are the ones we're brave enough to live.